10 Top 10 Most Evil Women. We all have a propensity to focus on the world's evil men and to overlook some of the truly evil women who have ever lived. With this list, I hope to fix that. In this case, not only are there serial killers, but also other absolutely despicable women who have wreaked havoc on the lives of numerous people. So, without further ado, here are the top 10 women in history who were the most evil. 10 Queen Mary I. Born 1516, died 1558. Mary was Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon's only child to live past the age of 1. After Edward VI's death and the 9 days Queen Lady Jane Grey's removal, Mary is primarily remembered for violently and temporarily returning England to Catholicism. For their beliefs, numerous prominent Protestants were executed, earning them the nickname Bloody Mary. Dreading the scaffold, a further 800 Protestants left the country, incapable to return until her passing. It ought to be noticed that Elizabeth I shares position 10 on this rundown for her similarly terrible way of behaving. 9 Myra Hindley. Born 1942, died 2002. From 1963 to 1965, the Moors murders in the Manchester area of Britain were committed by Myra Hindley and Ian Brady. 3 children under the age of 12 and 2 teenagers between the ages of 16 and 17 were kidnapped, sexually abused, tortured, and killed by these 2 monsters. A key found in Myra's control prompted implicating proof put away at a left gear stop at Manchester Focal Station. The proof incorporated a copying of one of the homicide casualties shouting as Hindley and Brady assaulted and tormented her. She developed a swagger and arrogance in the days leading up to her incarceration that would become her signature. Sandra Wilkinson, the police secretary, has never forgotten observing Hindley and her mother Nellie eating sweets against the courthouse. Hindley appeared uninterested and uncaring of the mother's situation, despite the mother's evident and understandable frustration. 8 Isabella of Castile. Born 1451, died 1504. Tomás de Torquemada was appointed the first Inquisitor General of the Inquisition as part of the drive for unification by Isabella I of Spain, well known as the patron of Christopher Columbus. She and her husband Ferdinand II of Aragon are responsible for making it possible for Spain to become one country under Carlos I, their grandson. The Alhambra Decree was implemented on March 31, 1492, edicts mandating the expulsion or conversion of Jews and Muslims. About 200,000 individuals fled Spain. The Inquisition that was looking into Judaizing conversos then persecuted the remaining converts. In 1974, Pope Paul VI initiated the beatification process for her. Because of this, she can possibly become a saint. She is thus referred to as a servant of God within the Catholic Church. 7 Beverly Elliott. Born 1968. One of Britain's most well-known serial killers is Beverly Gale Elliott, also known as the Angel of Death. She is liable for the deaths of 4 children she cares for as a pediatric nurse as well as the serious injuries sustained by 5 others. Insulin or potassium injections were given to induce cardiac arrest whenever they were available. When they weren't, smothering was sufficient. Elliott attacked 13 children over a 58-day period before being caught red-handed, despite being found guilty of causing death or bodily harm in 9 cases. Elliott has never discussed the rationale in her wrongdoings, yet Munchausen condition as a substitute makes sense of her activities. This controversial personality disorder involves repeatedly abusing or harming someone in your care to get attention. Elliott was known to wear bandages and casts over his wounds as a child, but he wouldn't let them be looked at. 6 Belle Gunness. Born 1859, died 1908. One of the most degenerate and prolific female serial killers in American history was Belle Gunness. Standing 6 feet, 1.83 meters, tall and tipping the scales at north of 200 pounds, 91 kilograms, she was a forcing and influential lady of Norwegian drop. She was certain to kill most of her suitors, boyfriends, and her 2 daughters, Myrtle and Lucy, though it is possible that she killed both of her husbands and all of her children at different times. Greed was all that was at play. She now relies on life insurance policies as well as assets that were swindled or stolen from her suitors. Most reports put her loss of life at in excess of 20 casualties, more than a very long while, with some guaranteeing more than 100 individuals. Irregularities during her after-death assessment. The fact that the corpse was said to be 2 inches shorter than Belle's 6 feet made it possible for Belle Gunness, a female Bluebeard, to enter American criminal legend. 5. Mary Ann Cotton. Born 1832, died 1873. Englishwoman Mary Ann Cotton is another for-profit serial killer, predating Belle Gunness by 30 years. Married at age 20 to William Mowbray, the newlyweds settled in Plymouth, Devon, to start their family. The couple had 5 children, 4 of whom died of gastric fever and stomach pains. Moving back to the Northeast, tragedy seemed to follow them. 3 more children born, 3 more children died. William soon followed his offspring, dying of an intestinal disorder in January 1865. British Prudential promptly paid a £35 dividend, and a pattern was established. Her second husband, George Ward, died of intestinal problems as well as one of her 2 remaining children. The power of the press, always a force to be reckoned with, caught up with Mary Ann. The local newspapers discovered that as Mary Ann moved around northern England, she lost 3 husbands, a lover, a friend, her mother, and a dozen children, all dying of stomach fever. She was hanged at Durham County Jail, March 24, 1873, for murder by arsenic poisoning. She died slowly, the hangman using too short a drop for a clean execution. 4. Ilse Koch. Born 1906, died 1967. Die Hex von Buchenwald, the Witch of Buchenwald, or Buchenwalder Schlamp, the Bitch of Buchenwald, was the wife of Karl Koch, commandant of the concentration camps Buchenwald from 1937 to 1941, and Majdanek from 1941 to 1943. Drunk on the absolute power rendered by her husband, she reveled in torture and obscenity. Infamous for her souvenirs, tattoos taken from the murdered inmates, her reputation for debauchery was well earned. After building an indoor sports arena in 1940, with 250,000 marks stolen from inmates, Ilse was promoted to Oberhofscheren or chief overseer of the few female guards at Buchenwald. She committed suicide by hanging herself at Achek Women's Prison on September 1, 1967. 3. Irma Grese. Born 1923, died 1945. Another product of the Nazis' final solution, Irma Grese, or the Bitch of Belsen, was a guard at concentration camps Ravensbrück, Auschwitz, and Bergen-Belsen. Transferred to Auschwitz in 1943, she must have shown particular enthusiasm and dedication to the job. She was promoted to senior supervisor, the second highest-ranking female in camp, by the end of the year. In charge of over 30,000 Jewish female prisoners, she reveled in her work. Her work included savaging of prisoners by her trained and half-starved dogs, sexual excesses, arbitrary shootings, sadistic beatings with a plated whip, and selecting prisoners for the gas chamber. She enjoyed both physical and emotional torture and habitually wore heavy boots and carried a pistol to facilitate both. 2. Catherine Knight. Born 1955. The first Australian woman to be sentenced to a natural life term without parole, Catherine Knight had a history of violence in relationships. She mashed the dentures of one of her ex-husbands and slashed the throat of another husband's 8-week-old puppy before his eyes. A heated relationship with John Charles Thomas Price became public knowledge with an apprehended violence order that Price had filed against Knight and ended with Knight stabbing Price to death with a butcher's knife. He had been stabbed at least 37 times, both front and back, with many of the wounds penetrating vital organs. She then skinned him and hung his suit from the door frame in the living room, cut off his head and put it in the soup pot, baked his buttocks, and prepared gravy and vegetables to accompany the roast. The meal and a vindictive note were set out for the children, luckily discovered by police before they arrived home. 1. Elizabeth Bathory. Born 1955. The most well-known Hungarian/Slovak serial killer is Countess Elizabeth Bathory. For many years, there had been rumors about missing peasant girls. They were never seen again, but they were offered well-paying work at the castle. King Matthias II heard one of these rumors and sent a group of men to the enormous Castle Sejthi. 2 dead girls were discovered by the men. A wounded one was discovered, and others were detained. According to the testimony of witnesses, the following atrocities were described: severe beatings that last for a long time, the use of needles, burning or mutilating hands, sometimes also the faces and genitalia, biting the flesh off the faces, arms, and other parts of the body, and starvation of the victims are all examples of this. Over a 25-year period, the number of victims is estimated to be in the hundreds. She was never tried because of her social status, and she was held in a single room under house arrest until she died. One of the few things the Countess did not do is to be believed that she bathed in her victims' blood. More information about Elizabeth Bathory can be found on Mythverse, our sister website dedicated to dispelling myths. If you love this video, please subscribe to the channel to receive the earliest notification of the next videos. Click the like and share button to spread this video to everyone. And please take a look at the video description to support us. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.